Right now, at this exact moment, an algorithm knows what you're going to think before you think it. Not metaphorically, literally. Your next emotion, your next political opinion, your next purchase, your next outrage, all predicted, calculated, and shaped by systems you never consented to, designed by people you'll never meet, serving interests you'll never see. The words in your head, the opinions you believe are yours, the emotions you feel when you see the news, none of it is truly yours. It was placed there, carefully, deliberately, by people you will never meet. George Orwell once wrote, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." He wasn't describing some distant dystopia. He was describing you, right now, in this moment. Because the system doesn't need jackboots and gulags anymore. It doesn't need to burn books or drag dissidents into the night. It has something far more powerful, your attention, and with it, your mind. This is how the system uses the media to control your life, and Orwell predicted every single part of it. He understood something most people still refuse to accept. Reality itself is negotiable when you control the tools of perception. But here's what should terrify you. Orwell's nightmare was primitive compared to what we're living through now. His Ministry of Truth had to manually rewrite newspapers. Ours rewrites your thoughts in real time, adjusts your memories through social feeds, and manufactures your reality with the precision of a neurological surgeon. Imagine this. You're scrolling your feed. A story appears, a politician caught in a scandal. You feel anger, justified anger. 3 more posts reinforce it. Different sources, same narrative. Your brain releases dopamine. You share it. You've just participated in reality construction and you didn't even notice. The story? It might be true, might be false, might be true but strategically amplified. You'll never know. And that's the point. The most sophisticated prison is the one where inmates defend their cells. Welcome to the architecture of control. Orwell predicted this. And now let me show you how deep the machinery goes. In 1949, George Orwell published a warning disguised as fiction. Most people read 1984 as a critique of totalitarian regimes. Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, authoritarian governments with jackboots and secret police. They missed the real horror. Orwell wasn't warning about governments alone. He was warning about the mechanisms of reality control itself. Methods that transcend political systems, that could operate in democracies, in free markets, in societies that believe themselves enlightened. The Ministry of Truth didn't just lie, it also falsified history. It reconstructed the past to serve the present. Oceania has always been at war with Eastasia. Except yesterday, Oceania was allied with Eastasia against Eurasia. The records have been changed. The newspapers are rewritten. Memory becomes unreliable. Eventually, citizens stop trusting their own minds. This is happening now, not through crude propaganda ministries, but through content moderation, algorithmic curation, search engine optimization, and the memory hole we call deleted posts. Orwell introduced us to newspeak, a language designed to make certain thoughts impossible. Reduce vocabulary, eliminate nuance, collapse meaning. If you can't articulate an idea, you can't think it. If you can't think it, it doesn't exist. Today, we communicate in character limits, emojis, and pre-selected reactions. complex political philosophy reduced to hashtags, moral reasoning compressed into binary choices, like or don't like, retweet or scroll past, upvote or downvote. Our digital language is newspeak, optimized for virality, engineered to prevent depth. Doublethink, the ability to hold contradictory beliefs simultaneously without recognizing the contradiction. Orwell saw this as the ultimate form of mental control, not forcing people to believe lies, but training them to accept paradox as normal. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Now, watch modern media. Surveillance is safety, censorship is protection, manipulation is personalization. We've been conditioned to accept doublethink as sophisticated thinking. Privacy invasion becomes user experience enhancement. Behavioral manipulation becomes content recommendation. Psychological profiling becomes better serving your interests. The horror isn't that we're being lied to. The horror is that we've been trained to call manipulation by friendlier names, and we defend the system that does it. Orwell's perpetual war, keeping populations in constant crisis to justify control, manifests in our era as the war on terror, morphing into election threats, morphing into pandemic emergencies, morphing into climate catastrophe. Each crisis is real, each response expanding surveillance, each emergency temporary, yet somehow permanent. But Orwell's deepest insight wasn't about any specific technique. It was about the ultimate goal: destroying objective reality itself. If there's no shared truth, no verifiable fact, no common ground, power becomes the sole arbiter of what's real. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. We've arrived. Understanding how you're controlled requires understanding how your brain actually works, not how you think it works, but the neurological reality beneath consciousness. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine optimized for survival, not truth. It takes shortcuts, it craves certainty, it hates cognitive dissonance, and every one of these features is a vulnerability that media manipulation exploits with scientific precision. Repetition is reality. Your brain forms neural pathways through repetition. Synaptic connections strengthen with use. Hear something once, it's a possibility. Hear it 3 times from different sources, it becomes familiar. Hear it 50 times, and it becomes truth regardless of factual content. This is the propaganda technique refined by Joseph Goebbels and perfected by modern media. Saturation coverage. The story isn't just told, it's embedded through repetition across platforms, formats, and voices until it becomes the background radiation of your consciousness. Your amygdala, the brain's fear center, responds to threats before your prefrontal cortex can engage rational analysis. News producers know this. Fear triggers immediate attention. Survival instinct overrides skepticism. This is why breaking news uses urgent music, red graphics, and countdown timers. Why do headlines emphasize danger, crisis, threat? Your amygdala hijacks your cognition, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. In this state, you're not thinking, you're reacting, you're compliant. You're looking for authority to resolve the threat. And, conveniently, the same media that triggered your fear offers the solution. Social identity theory explains how narratives become part of your identity. You don't just believe certain things, you become someone who believes certain things. Attack the belief, and the brain perceives it as an attack on the self. This is why political disagreements feel like personal assaults, why fact-checking feels like violence, and why people abandon relationships over media-manufactured controversies. Your brain literally cannot distinguish between threats to your ideas and threats to your body. The media exploits this by tying narratives to identity markers. If you're smart, you believe X. If you're moral, you oppose Y. If you're one of us, you share this. Soon, your beliefs aren't yours. They're loyalty signals, tribal badges, identity maintenance. In-group bias means you trust information from sources you perceive as similar to you and distrust the same information from outgroups. Media platforms discovered they could fragment audiences into micro-communities, each receiving customized narratives that feel authentic because they're delivered by perceived allies. You're not being lied to by enemies. You're being managed by friends. Information overload creates cognitive fatigue. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for critical thinking, requires energy. Bombard it with constant stimulus, conflicting stories, urgent updates, and it exhausts itself. In this depleted state, your brain defaults to heuristics, shortcuts, tribal thinking, and emotional reasoning. You stop analyzing, you start accepting. This is why the modern media environment operates at overwhelming velocity, not to inform you, but to exhaust your capacity to think critically about what you're being informed of. Selective exposure and echo chambers create confirmation addiction. Every time you encounter information that confirms your existing beliefs, your brain releases dopamine. You get a chemical reward for being right. Platforms optimize for engagement by showing you what you already believe, creating a dopamine loop that makes disagreement feel like withdrawal. You're not seeking truth, you're seeking the neurological comfort of being confirmed. Agenda-setting theory reveals that the media doesn't tell you what to think, it tells you what to think about. The stories that receive coverage become the stories that matter. Issues ignored by the media become invisible, regardless of objective importance. This is control through attention management. They don't need to convince you of their narrative if they can prevent you from ever considering alternatives. Behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that humans operate through two systems: fast, intuitive, emotional, and slow, analytical, rational. Media manipulation targets System 1, emotional, instant, unconscious, because it bypasses your critical defenses. By the time your rational mind catches up, you've already reacted, shared, internalized, and moved on. The illusion of choice in curated digital landscapes completes the trap. You think you're exploring freely, sampling diverse sources, and making independent decisions, but algorithms determine what you see, when you see it, and in what context. You're walking through a maze, believing you're in an open field. Your freedom is choreographed. Every click, every pause, every scroll pattern feeds predictive models that adjust your reality in real time, not to reflect the world as it is, but to shape you into who they need you to be. The most insidious part: you think these are your thoughts, your conclusions, your awakening. That's how deep the control goes, all the way down to your sense of autonomy itself. Now let's dissect the machinery. 5 core strategies that transformed media from an information source into a behavioral control system. 1. Fear as a weapon. Fear is the most reliable path to compliance. Frightened populations don't ask questions, they beg for solutions. They trade freedom for safety. They accept surveillance, censorship, and control as necessary evils. The system understands this with mathematical precision. Post 9/11, Western media saturated coverage with terror threats, color-coded alert systems, and ominous warnings. The actual statistical risk of terrorism? microscopic for average citizens. The psychological impact, seismic. Entire populations accepted warrantless surveillance, indefinite detention, and foreign wars because fear overrode reason. Imagine this family watching the evening news. Story 1, new virus strain. Story 2, economic collapse warning. Story 3, political violence. Story 4, environmental catastrophe. Each story triggers cortisol release. Each headline reinforces the world is dangerous, you are vulnerable, you need protection. By the end of the broadcast, they're not thinking critically about institutional power, they're grateful for it. Pandemic coverage revealed this weapon's full potential. Legitimate health crisis, yes, but watch how the media amplified certain aspects while suppressing others. Death counters are running constantly. Worst-case scenarios are presented as inevitable. Dissenting expert opinions deplatformed. Psychological studies on fear-based compliance were ignored. The goal wasn't information. It was behavioral management through sustained terror. Climate coverage follows identical patterns. Countdown clocks to the apocalypse, images of destruction. Children are crying about their future. Is climate change real? That's not the point. The point is, are you being informed or frightened into compliance with predetermined solutions? Fear bypasses your critical thinking and delivers you into the arms of authority. 2. Distraction as strategy. While economic systems extract wealth, while surveillance expands, while freedoms erode, the media ensures you're watching something else entirely. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is attention economy engineering. When major financial legislation passes that transfers billions to corporate interests, the media leads with which celebrity couple is divorcing. When surveillance bills expand government reach, you're debating a viral dance trend. When foreign policy creates humanitarian disasters, you're arguing about award show controversies. The psychology is elegant. Your attention is finite. Whatever occupies your consciousness cannot be occupied by something else. Entertainment isn't just pleasure, it's attention capture, cognitive real estate occupied by triviality, so you can't focus on power. Ancient Rome perfected this, bread and circuses. Keep the population fed and entertained, and they won't notice their enslavement. Modern media has refined it to nano-targeted perfection. Every trending topic is a magic trick. Watch this hand while the other hand picks your pocket. The algorithm knows when major serious news breaks. It knows when you might start asking dangerous questions. And it knows exactly which distraction will pull your attention away. Cat video, sports outrage, celebrity scandal, A/B tested for your specific psychological profile. You think you're choosing what to watch. You're being assigned what to watch at precisely the moment you need to be distracted. 3. Division as policy. United populations are dangerous to power structures. Divided populations police themselves. Media doesn't create division. It weaponizes and amplifies existing differences until communities fracture into warring tribes incapable of collective action. The algorithm is the most sophisticated division engine ever created. It doesn't show you the same internet as your neighbor sees. It shows you a customized reality designed to make you believe your tribe is righteous and the other tribe is an existential threat. Same event, opposite coverage. Each side receives information confirming their worldview, demonstrating the other side's malice. Both believe they're informed, both believe the other is brainwashed. Neither realizes they're both managed. Social media platforms discovered that outrage drives engagement. Nuanced discussion doesn't. So the algorithm prioritizes content that triggers anger, fear, moral outrage, emotions that make you react, share, comment, stay on the platform. Every minute you spend hating the other tribe is a minute you're not organizing against the system creating the division. This is genius-level population management. Convince the left the right is fascist, convince the right the left is communist, and watch them destroy each other while power consolidates above the conflict. Race, gender, generation, class, region. Every natural difference is amplified into identity warfare. Not because anyone cares about justice, but because fractured populations are controllable populations. Look at any major social movement's trajectory. It begins with legitimate grievances against institutional power, ends with internal purity battles and tribal fragmentation. Movements eat themselves. The media ensures this by platforming the most extreme voices, the most divisive statements, the most alienating representatives. Consensus becomes impossible. Collaboration becomes betrayal. Solutions become a compromise with evil. And the system remains untouched. 4. Entertainment as sedation. Aldous Huxley predicted a different dystopia than Orwell. Not one where information was restricted, but where populations drowned in triviality. Not boot-stamping faces, but populations passively consuming pleasure until critical thinking atrophied. He was right, too. Modern entertainment isn't just leisure, it's a neurological sedative. Binge-watching triggers dopamine cycles similar to substance addiction. Autoplay functions ensure you never have to actively choose, just passively consume until consciousness dissolves. Gaming has been gamified. Social media has been gamified. Dating has been gamified. Fitness has been gamified. Every interaction is optimized for the same dopamine loops that make gambling addictive. Your brain literally cannot distinguish between achievement in reality and achievement in simulated systems. Both trigger reward pathways. But one builds real-world capability. The other keeps you domesticated. Hours spent in digital achievement systems are hours not spent developing actual power, building community, or questioning authority. The system doesn't need to ban critical thinking if it can make passivity more pleasurable than resistance. Entertainment culture celebrates anti-intellectualism, celebrates not caring about politics, celebrates cynical detachment, celebrates consumption as identity. You're not lazy, you're treating yourself. You're not passive, you're practicing self-care. You're not being sedated, you're protecting your mental health. The language is newspeak. The result is compliance. Consider the sheer volume of content produced. More television in 1 month than existed in the entire 20th century. More videos are uploaded in 1 day than you could watch in a lifetime. The goal isn't to entertain you, it's to ensure there's always another episode, another video, another scroll, another reason to never look up and notice what's being done to you. Digital sedation is the modern opiate of the masses. 5. Manufactured outrage. The final strategy is the most insidious. Engineering emotional exhaustion through perpetual crisis. Every week a new outrage, every day a new scandal, every hour a new controversy demanding your immediate response. Celebrity said something problematic. Company did something unethical. Politician revealed as hypocrite. Your capacity for outrage is finite. Exhausted on curated controversies, and you have nothing left for systemic injustice. This is not organic. This is manufactured. Watch the pattern. Minor incident occurs, amplified by the media, becomes a trending topic, demands taking sides, consumes discourse for 48 to 72 hours, then vanishes, replaced by the next outrage. The incident is real. The amplification is strategic. You're being trained to react emotionally, constantly to stimuli selected by attention engineers. Your outrage is data. Your engagement is a product. Your emotional state is currency. Cancel culture isn't grassroots. It's algorithmic amplification of punitive tribalism. It keeps you fighting each other over symbolic issues while material conditions deteriorate. The most effective controversies are those that divide natural allies. Make the working class fight over cultural issues so they don't unite over economic exploitation. Make racial justice movements battle over ideological purity so they can't challenge institutional racism. Make feminists fight each other over the definition of terms so patriarchal power remains unchallenged. Eventually, you're too tired to care, too exhausted to engage, too numb to react. That's not a bug, that's the goal. Emotional exhaustion creates apathy. Apathy creates compliance, and compliance is control.
Theory becomes reality. Let's examine 5 interconnected cases where media manipulation wasn't speculation, it was exposed. Case 1. Iraq WMDs, Manufacturing Consensus for War. 2002-3. American media unified in promoting Iraq as an imminent threat possessing weapons of mass destruction. Major newspapers published intelligence leaks. Television news interviewed experts confirming the narrative. Dissenting voices are marginalized, mocked, or ignored. New York Times reporter Judith Miller became a conduit for government propaganda, publishing unverified claims from anonymous sources with agendas. Other outlets followed. The drumbeat for war became deafening. No weapons were ever found, the intelligence was fabricated, and the media had participated in manufacturing public consent for a war that killed hundreds of thousands and destabilized an entire region. Did they apologize? Some issued quiet corrections years later. Did accountability follow? The same institutions continue operating with unchanged credibility. The lesson? Media and state power can coordinate to construct a false reality, and populations will accept it when the propaganda is overwhelming enough. Case 2. Cambridge Analytica, Behavioral Manipulation at Scale. 2018, revelations exposed how Facebook allowed political consultancy Cambridge Analytica to harvest data from 87 million users without consent, then use personality profiling to target them with customized political messaging. This wasn't advertising. This was personality-based behavioral manipulation. They identified your psychological vulnerabilities, your fears, your triggers, and crafted messages to exploit them. Neurotic people received fear-based messaging. Agreeable people received community-based appeals. Conscientious people received responsibility-framed content. All saying different things, all pushing towards the same political outcome. The horror isn't that one company did this, it's that this is now standard practice. Every platform uses similar techniques. Every campaign employs behavioral psychology. Every corporation runs these experiments. Your personality is a targeting vector. Your psychology is an attack surface, and you consented to it when you clicked agree on terms you never read. Case 3. TikTok, Algorithmic Psychological Warfare. ByteDance's algorithm represents the culmination of attention engineering. It doesn't show you what you search for. It predicts what will capture you before you know you want it. Studies show TikTok's algorithm can identify and reinforce mental health vulnerabilities. Depressed users see depression-promoting content. Anxious users see anxiety-inducing content. Body dysmorphic users see fitness perfectionism. Self-harm content finds teenagers most vulnerable to self-harm. This isn't malice, it's optimization. The algorithm maximizes engagement. It discovered that vulnerable people engage more when their vulnerabilities are triggered, so it triggers them constantly. The Chinese version of TikTok, Douyin, shows Chinese youth educational content, cultural pride, and science. The Western version shows increasingly extreme content to maximize addiction. Coincidence or information warfare? The app is a direct pipeline into adolescent psychology. shaping identity formation during critical developmental years. An entire generation is being neurologically conditioned by an algorithm optimized for engagement, not well-being. The long-term effects? We're the experiment. Case 4. Deepfakes, the assassination of shared reality. AI-generated video and audio now create perfect simulations of real people saying things they never said. The technology is accessible. The implications are catastrophic. The 2024 elections featured deepfake videos of politicians in scandals that never occurred. By the time fact-checks circulated, millions had already seen and believed the lie. The lie traveled at light speed. Truth limped behind. But here's the deeper weapon. Now, whenever real footage emerges of actual wrongdoing, the response is simple. That's a deep fake. Deepfakes don't just create false realities, they make true realities deniable. Objective evidence becomes questionable. Shared reality collapses. Orwell's nightmare achieved. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. Now you have a technological justification to do exactly that. Case 5. Independent media and invisible funding. Numerous outlets presenting themselves as independent journalism are funded by foundations, think tanks, and NGOs with specific geopolitical agendas. This isn't a conspiracy, it's documented funding relationships. Media outlets covering foreign policy funded by defense industry adjacent organizations. Climate coverage funded by energy interests. Health coverage funded by pharmaceutical companies. The funding doesn't always create direct editorial control. It doesn't need to. It creates selection bias. Hire journalists aligned with your worldview. Fund stories exploring angles that serve your interests. Ignore stories that don't. The result appears objective. Independent voices reaching independent conclusions. But the entire infrastructure is shaped by financial architecture invisible to audiences. You think you're getting alternative perspectives. You're getting manufactured diversity within acceptable boundaries.
Here's the most sophisticated trick: making you believe you're free while you're being controlled. You think you choose what to believe. You think you select your sources. You think you form your opinions through rational analysis and personal values. You're describing the experience of manipulation, not the experience of freedom. Manufacturing Consent, Chomsky and Herman's framework explains how democratic societies achieve propaganda more effectively than authoritarian ones. Authoritarian systems reveal themselves through obvious censorship. Democratic systems create the illusion of a free press while filtering information through invisible structural mechanisms. Media ownership concentration, advertising dependence, sourcing from official channels, flak mechanisms against dissent, and ideological frameworks that make certain perspectives unthinkable, all operating without explicit government censorship. You're allowed to say anything, but only certain things get amplified, funded, and platformed. You think you're in a marketplace of ideas. You're in a curated garden where acceptable thoughts bloom and dangerous ones are quietly pruned. Cognitive dissonance explains why you resist this information right now. Your self-concept requires believing you're autonomous, rational, and free thinking. Evidence of manipulation threatens that identity. Your brain can either accept the disturbing truth or reject the information to preserve your self-concept. Most choose preservation. It's psychologically easier. This is why people become aggressive when presented with evidence of manipulation. You're not attacking their beliefs, you're attacking their sense of self. Stockholm Syndrome dynamics emerge between audiences and manipulators. You've invested time, identity, and emotion into media sources. Admitting they manipulated you means admitting you were fooled.
means questioning every belief they shaped, means confronting that your thoughts might not be yours. It's easier to defend the captor than face that reality. The sunk cost fallacy keeps you invested. You've spent years with certain media, shared their content, argued their positions, built relationships around shared narratives. Abandoning them means admitting wasted time, damaged relationships, and misplaced trust. So you double down, defend them harder, attack critics more viciously. The manipulation is complete when victims defend their manipulators against their own liberation. The shadows aren't the absence of light, they're the distortion of it. The cage isn't made of bars, it's made of dopamine, identity, and the terror of confronting your own unfreedom. You are not enslaved by what you don't know. You are enslaved by what you believe you know that simply isn't true.
The awakening is not gentle, it's lacerating. It's the feeling of phantom limbs being removed, painful, disorienting, strange, but necessary. Philosophically, question everything. Not as performative cynicism, but as disciplined practice. Every headline, ask who benefits. Every narrative, ask what's not being shown. Every source, ask what incentive structures shape it. This will make you uncomfortable. You will lose certainty. You will become suspicious of things you once trusted. Good. Certainty is the enemy of truth. Comfort is the luxury of the controlled. Embrace the discomfort. It's the sensation of waking up. Psychologically, interrupt the dopamine loops. Your brain has been hijacked by engagement optimization. You must consciously intervene. Mindfulness practice, not mysticism, but attentional discipline, trains you to notice when you're being captured. Feel the urge to scroll. Don't. Sit with the discomfort. Notice your brain demanding stimulation. This is withdrawal. This is your neurological addiction revealing itself. The urge will pass. You'll reclaim agency. Meditation, walks without phones, analog activities, anything that breaks the algorithmic feedback loops and restores your capacity to direct your own attention. Practically, diversify sources and methods. Read the other tribes' media, not to agree, but to understand how they're being manipulated. Read international sources. Read books older than the internet. Read primary documents instead of summaries. Digital detox, periods without social media, news, streaming, not permanently, but regularly, like fasting. Let your system reset. Critical media literacy tools. Understand bias recognition, source evaluation, logical fallacies, emotional manipulation techniques, statistical misrepresentation, and framing effects. Consume deliberately. Schedule specific times for news. Choose sources consciously. Read with skepticism, not cynicism. There's a difference. Skepticism says, prove it. Cynicism says, nothing matters. One leads to wisdom, the other to paralysis. Build communities of critical thinkers, not echo chambers agreeing with you, but people willing to challenge both mainstream narratives and your alternative narratives. Truth emerges through dialectic, not conformity. The transformation. This process destroys your comfort. It will alienate you from people still embedded in the matrix. They will think you've become paranoid, extreme, and difficult. You haven't changed. You've woken up, and the sleeping cannot comprehend the awakened. But there's something beyond the pain. Clarity, power, freedom. The awakening forges unbreakable resolve. Once you see the machinery, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand the manipulation, you become immune to it. Not perfectly. You're still human, still vulnerable to psychological techniques, but consciously. You see the strings while they're pulled, and consciousness is the only thing power truly fears.
George Orwell gave us a blueprint. He showed us how language shapes thought, how institutions control reality, and how power operates through perception management rather than force. He also gave us a warning. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. But he was wrong about one thing. The future doesn't need a boot. It has algorithms. It has behavioral psychology. It has devices in your pocket more sophisticated than anything he imagined. It has your consent, your participation, and your defense. The most effective oppression is the one you cannot see, cannot name, cannot resist because you believe it's freedom. We've exceeded Orwell's nightmare. We've built something more insidious, a prison where inmates design their own cells, report each other's escape attempts, and attack anyone suggesting the bars exist. Artificial intelligence now writes news articles, generates images, creates videos, conducts conversations. Soon, you won't know if you're interacting with humans or simulations designed to manipulate you. The AI doesn't need malicious intent. It needs only optimization. Optimize for engagement, and you get addiction. Optimize for clicks, and you get outrage. Optimize for retention, and you get echo chambers. The system doesn't conspire. It evolves toward control because control is efficient. Orwell's Ministry of Truth required bureaucrats. Ours requires only servers and algorithms, operating 24/7, adjusting reality in real time for billions simultaneously. This is not inevitable. It is a choice. A choice is being made right now by people deciding whether to look away or look closely. Every moment you spend consuming manipulated media is a moment stolen from your actual life, your genuine thoughts, your authentic relationships. Every dopamine hit from engineered outrage is a piece of your consciousness given to systems that exist to control you. Every belief you never questioned is a brick in your own prison. So what now? You have 3 options. Go back to sleep. Pretend you never saw this. Re-enter the comfortable numbness. It's tempting. It's easier. Most will choose this. Or become paralyzed. See the manipulation everywhere. Trust nothing. Retreat into cynical isolation. This is another form of defeat. Or the third path, the hardest, the most necessary. Stay awake. Maintain vigilance. Build immunity. Help others see. Not as a prophet, not as a missionary, but as someone who escaped and remembers how. The system relies on collective blindness. It cannot function if enough people see it clearly. Your consciousness is the battleground. Your attention is the weapon. Your clarity is the revolution. Orwell predicted this. Now, what are you going to do about it? Question everything, including this video.